Hi, welcome to another episode of Overnight Success. My name is Oluwamayowa Idowu, and today I am joined by textile designer and fashion designer Banke Kuku. Hi, Banke.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. I start these interviews by asking my guests a slightly silly question, just to make them feel more comfortable. So pick one. Everyone can read your thoughts, or everyone has access to your internet search history.
That's a really tough one. I would say everybody has access to my internet search history because I just will stop searching on the internet.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Mayowa Idowu. I'm a lawyer, writer, and journalist, and I'm also editor-in-chief of Culture Custodian. Overnight Success is an interview series where I speak to some of my favorite creators and entrepreneurs on the journeys and stories that got them to where they are. That is, young, successful people doing interesting things. I don't think there's any such thing as an overnight success, or is there? Find out more by watching this video. And when you're done, please subscribe, like the video, leave a comment, and share it with as many people as possible. Thank you. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Overnight Success. Yeah. So you were born in 80s Lagos.
Yes.
What was that like?
80s Lagos was safe. Like, we'd sleep with our back door open. Like, if not intentionally, but if you forget to lock the back door, you're not like, oh my gosh, I felt really safe. And I went to a school nearby. I had friends. I loved my life in Lagos. Around the 90s, mid-90s, things started to get a bit heated in Nigeria, and that's when I left.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're from a prominent Ijebu family. Your brother did Ojude Oba. I'm curious, how do your parents nurture that sense of tradition and heritage in you guys when you were growing up?
Ojude Oba was something that we always, in fact, we had to go. I mean, when we were younger, I was always quite scared of the guns, and as a child, as a little girl, it's quite overwhelming. But it's just one of those things that we had to go to. And when I look back, I'm so thankful because it really made me accustomed to our culture. New Year's was spent in Ijebu. My dad went to Ijebu every other weekend. So going to Ijebu was just almost our second home. So my dad is he's a real traditional Ijebu man. So he, just being around him, you will pick up the tradition anyway. So I think that's how we got it. My brother absolutely loves the culture. My family is a horsey family. My brothers all ride horses and they play polo as well as my dad does. So it was just part of us growing up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you moved to prep school in England at age 8.
Yes.
I'm very curious, that young, how did you navigate and acclimatize to that?
I'm not gonna lie, I really struggled. I think I was, it's not that I hadn't necessarily, I remember my first day, and my house mistress had these really blue eyes. And it's not that I hadn't seen eyes like that. Obviously, summer holidays and stuff, we did travel and stuff, but I don't think I had really noticed somebody's eyes could be so blue. I was so scared of her. The food was really hard. Not that the food was good for school food, but I'm used to eating my Nigerian food as a child, and suddenly eating cold meat, and I really wasn't used to that. In fact, I used to get sick all the time, so I could go home and my mom could cook for me at home. I found it tough. I found the culture really hard to adjust to. It took me a good couple of years. The cold weather as well was really hard. But over time I did adjust, but my first term was a struggle.
Okay, and one thing I'm very curious about with people who leave home early is kind of how you develop your sense of identity. So it's you go into this new society, and you'll grow up and you'll kind of start to see yourself in that society, but then, there's home, there's your actual roots. So how did you kind of navigate and make sense of that?
I think actually I found, growing up as a child in Nigeria, you're actually very confident. And when I started boarding school, I was very confident in myself because, in my year group in my boarding house, I was definitely the only black girl. And, the way I was so intrigued by my house mistress's blue eyes is the same way they were quite intrigued by me as well, my braids and my culture. I came from Africa and they wanted to know more. And I was kind of just like, they would ask, people would ask me questions, I would ask them questions. I was really confident in myself. There's nothing you could tell me that would make me feel like different. I didn't feel different. I felt like, not different. Of course I felt different, but not in a negative way. So I was very confident in who I was and, why I was there, and, life in general. I was confident.
Okay, so another thing I'm curious about, like, where did the interest in fashion come from?
I was always really into art, and even at Grange, before I left Nigeria, I was always in the art department with my mom. I used to make dresses for my dolls and everything. So I was always a creative. The fashion came really late, actually. So when I studied fine art at school, and then I went to university to do, I did my foundation in art and design. And I didn't really know, I know I was just going to art school because I love being creative, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. So it's when I started to specialize in different things and try different things out. I did sculpture, I did so many different things. And then I stumbled across textiles and I fell in love with textiles. Then textiles is so broad, you can do anything with textiles. You can become an interior designer, you can become a fashion designer, you can become, you can become so many different things. So I graduated with a textiles degree. I was confused for a while. Did I want to go into fashion? Did I want to go into interiors? And I went through a phase of being like, who am I as a creative? Which, and eventually I went into fashion, and I think really that was my calling, but it took me a long time to get there.
Okay, so I want to take you back to going to Central St. Martin, which is prestigious fashion and art school. And again, it's not somewhere where there are lots of black people in those spaces.
Yes.
But I'm curious, what was your experience like? How was that for you?
St. Martin's was definitely tough, not tough in like, oh, I struggled, but it challenged you. It didn't just challenge your creativity, but it challenged you as a person. Because not only, when you're at school, you're kind of like, maybe you're more comfortable because you're maybe you're strongest in your class and art. But you're now in an environment where everybody is strong and everybody's fighting for a few places on a course. And people are literally giving their all. And, we had so many different tasks. We had to wake up really early in the morning, go to some market to do some sketches. That's challenging, you learned a discipline, which was really instilled from the first day. So, and I think that's so important because when you go into industry, you need that discipline as a creative, as an artist to keep going. And I really learned that at St. Martin's. As I said, it was competitive. It was really competitive, and which is what industry is like. When you're working as a designer, you need to understand your competition, you need to assess your environment, you need to really know what you're doing, and you need to be confident in yourself. I think I really learned that at St. Martin's. Okay,
and I've seen that you won an opportunity to work at Burberry. So talk to me about that. So how did you win that, and then what the experience was like?
I think in our second year, so I moved from St. Martin's to Chelsea.
Yeah.
And in our second year, we were encouraged to start working. We'll start, finding what you're interested in and start investigating. So when you finish your degree, you're not fresh, not knowing what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I was still going through the phase of, I don't know whether I want to be an interior designer. I don't know if I want to be a fashion designer. So there was an opportunity to work at Burberry. And so I applied and I got the role. And I loved it. I didn't, so it was you took the term out to work. So I took the term out to work at Burberry, and the term finished, and I really didn't want to leave. I really wanted to stay, but then obviously I was like, I had to go back and finish my degree because I promised that I would, and I wanted to make sure that I wasn't just jumping at my first opportunity. But it was such a, there's this idea that working in fashion houses is horrible and everyone is mean, and no, it really wasn't like that at all. Everyone was very encouraging. I really learned so much, and things that I learned at Burberry, they're still very relevant in my work life today. It was an amazing experience.
Okay, and what's your creative process these days?
My creative process, wow, that is a question. So I always start with, I find a subject I'm really interested in, I do lots of research. I try and make it visual in my mind first before I put anything on paper. Then I put it on paper, I spend some time I spend time with the idea. I need time to kind of understand what direction I'm going with it. Time is a big thing for me. Silence is also a big thing for me. I feel as if...
That makes sense.
Yeah, I feel as if it all happens in silence and in peace. So I take my time to be silent, to be peaceful, to be, just work with it in my mind. And then I start to create.
Okay. You'd go on to start working as a textile designer. You've kind of already referenced that.
Yes.
But there's a point where you were freelancing.
Yes.
And then there's a point where what was your side hustle became your main hustle.
Yes.
So talk about that and the lessons you learned during that journey.
So yes, I had a 9 to 5. I was working in another fashion house after I graduated. And then, different fashion houses also approached me to design their textiles. Nigerian fashion houses, British fashion houses. And so I was designing their textiles, and the balance, I just didn't have enough time to do the 9 to 5 as well as doing my freelancing. So I just stuck to the freelancing. It was daunting because you're just like, starting a new, I didn't really see it as oh my gosh, I'm starting this business, and I just went with it and I let it evolve. But yeah, so that's how my side hustle became my main hustle.
Okay, and then at a point you decided to start a fashion brand.
Yes.
So why was it important to you to create like a parallel line to the textile design studio?
So before I started the fashion line, I actually had an interior line. Because I was working with so many fashion brands, I felt as if I was getting my dose of fashion. And I still wanted to do something of my own, not just...
To tickle that itch.
Yes, exactly. So I had my interior line. I was doing soft furnishing and I was selling at Maison Objet twice a year in Paris, and my products were everywhere. Japan, Australia, UK, America. I had stockists everywhere. And then I moved back to Nigeria. And I kept on with the freelance, but the interior market here wasn't what I was accustomed to. It was different, and I didn't enjoy it. So I was still selling my cushions, and my customers were like, these prints that you do, why don't you make a kaftans and dresses? I was like, no, I want to just stick to my cushions. I'm trying to find myself. And so one of my customers, who's still my customer today, she's like, just make me one kaftan. So I made her a kaftan, and her friends are asking about it. Then her friends asked for kaftans. I was like, okay, let me put like a little capsule collection together and see how that goes. So I did that. It was very limited. I had, altogether probably like, I don't know, 3-4 styles, and I just did them in different prints and colors, and it did really well. So that was December of 2018.
Okay.
Was it 2018? When was that? When was the lockdown? When was COVID?
COVID was 2020, so December 2019.
Exactly. I put out my first collection, and it really was amazing. I absolutely loved it. I was just like, oh my gosh, how come I didn't go into fashion earlier? But then the fashion I was going to was really, it wasn't like, high-end fashion, and, it was kind of just fashion that would complement my interior line.
Yeah.
So it was like pajamas that you could wear at home, you could wear out.
Yeah.
It was things that you could feel comfortable at home and still look stylish if you decide to go out in it. And the timing was just perfect because lockdown happened. Everyone wanted to look stylish at home. People were wearing pajamas, and that's how it took off. Okay,
it's funny because you're another instance of someone who kind of just benefited from COVID when the world was burning.
No,
and then
I wasn't. I don't like to think about it like that because COVID was a horrible time for the world. But I know I did put a smile on some people's faces, I think, wearing your fluorescent pink pajamas at home, brightened up your day. And there was some positivity that came out of that time. It was such a, I don't like to think of my brand that like I came out of such darkness, but yeah, it was a time where everyone was online as well, so a lot of people engaged.
You've done a collab with Gabrielle Union.
Yes.
Which was pretty significant milestone.
Yeah.
So talk to me about how that came about.
Her team reached out to me, and they said to me that we're working on a project with Gabrielle Union and we really want you to design it. And I was just thinking, are you sure you have, who am I speaking to? And so I was like, okay, can we have a call? And they told me, I was like, really? Wow, that's amazing. I was amazed that, first of all, they could trust me so much. They hadn't met me. They loved my designs. And at the time she was turning 50 and she was really trying to explore her African roots. So, and she liked my prints and stuff and my brand aesthetic. So of course I was so honored to take on that role with her. And it was an amazing collaboration. Her team were amazing. She's amazing as well. I absolutely loved working on that project.
Okay, so one thing I'm very curious about with anyone who works in like fashion is that fashion is an industry where that's largely driven by trends. So how do you like sustain relevance as a fashion designer? Like, how do you keep?
You listen to your customers. You listen to your community.
Interesting. That makes sense.
You listen to your community as well as, so you listen to your community, but you put your identity on that.
That's a bar.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got a new collection.
Yes.
That's called Oceans, and
Yes.
the mission you're trying to kind of accomplish with that is to build more awareness about like environmental sustainability.
Yes.
So talk to me about, the origin story of that and how that's going.
So it really came about, my brand really tells nature stories in Nigeria. Our current collection is called Eden, which is based on the perfect garden, and I use plants and animals in Nigeria to kind of tell that story. And then, so I was inspired to create another nature story. And, there was, at the time where I was going through my process, there was a ban on some non-reusable plastics in Nigeria. And everyone was like, oh my gosh, do we have time to be thinking about this? There's so many other problems happening in Nigeria. And I was like, no, hang on, this is a big topic, because this is like our environment. We're saving the ocean. Plastic damages the ocean, which is our source of food, fish. And it's, we need to think about living a more sustainable lifestyle as Nigerians, because it preserves what we have. And if we start destroying everything we have, then, we have to keep going to other countries to get different things, and we should be able to sustain ourselves. Started to research, what our oceans looked like before, what they look like now, and where they could be. Because you hear so many stories about how the oceans the oceans around was so rich. There were dolphins. There were you hear all these stories, right? And so I really looked into it, and so my collection actually tells a story of where the oceans used to be and where they could be in the future if we choose more sustainable options, if we take care of our environment. So that's basically the story.
Okay, there's no way to do this, but the next question I have is slightly flippant, but I'm curious. When you see the memes of the Lagos big girl starter kits, and you see Banke Kuku in there, how does that make you feel?
Okay, my clothes are valued at least, you know what I mean? I have no problems with it. I have no problems with it.
Okay, so another thing I'm curious about, what goes into building for that market?
Quality, interesting things, really interesting things because my customers have access to so much. You have to, whether access not even so much outside of Nigeria, but also within Nigeria, they can buy whatever. They don't have to choose my brand. You know what I mean? So you have to give them a reason why they're going to buy from you. So you have to think about the design, you've got to think about the quality, you've got to think about so many different things. So you have to you have to challenge yourself to keep ahead of it all.
Okay. And so when I end these interviews, I usually end with 2 questions. So the first one is, imagine you're my producer for the day. So that means these beautiful people behind the camera, we get rid of them, and we put you on. You have to basically book me like 3 guests. Who would you like to see me have this conversation with?
That's a really hard one from any industry.
Yeah, we don't discriminate. So,
That's a really hard one. Who would I choose? Princess Abba Falario, she's a great person. I think I would love, because I think she's lived a really full life.
Yeah.
And I'd like to hear her journey. I'd like to hear her experience in Nigeria back in those days compared to now.
Okay.
I think she'd be really interesting, yeah.
Anyone else? Or is that what we're going
Let's
with?
leave it at that for now.
Okay. So we've had this conversation. I've dug into your whole life and your business. Is there any question you'd like to ask me that you'd like me to answer on camera?
Tell me your deepest, darkest secret.
I would never tell you that.
Okay, then we can turn off the camera. You can tell me later.
Okay, no worries. Okay. Thank you guys for watching this episode. Thank you, Banke, for sharing your story with me. It's been a very interesting one.
Thank you.
Catch you on the next episode next week.